let's talk about the Pens because this Caps team was absolutely rolling. The Pens are injured. They're going to be without Jake Gensel for the duration at this point. Can the Pens catch the Caps?
They absolutely can. Matt Murray starting to play like Matt Murray was playing when he won 2 Stanley Cups. That's a real positive. I thought he was outstanding in that game, especially in the third period when the Capitals really started to pour it on. They were physically demanding the play in that third period, and Murray had to come up with a bunch of big saves. So in my eyes, that is a huge reason why I believe the Penguins can get there. As good as Tristan Jarry has played this year, and he's been very good, that's a good problem to have. I still think Matt Murray's the man. It's good to see him start to play like that again.
It's amazing with all these injuries, players at every position just step in, fill the void, and start excelling. That could be a good thing for the Penguins down the stretch. They're still in great position. They're going to make the playoffs. They can challenge for first place. But just because these guys were injured, Gensel's missed some time, all those forwards that we can run through, players like Brian Rust get a little more opportunity, start scoring goals, start playing power play minutes. Now there's just confidence through the lineup. The amount of guys that have come up from the minors, Sam Lafferty pops into mind, and just fit in right away and look like they've been there for years. That's a testament to the organization. And whenever you got 2 goaltenders, which we've seen all across the league now, Tristan Jarry opened my eyes this year, and Matt Murray. We went through his splits the other day. November and December were rough, but January was a great month for him. He wants that net back, and when you got 2 Stanley Cups under your belt already, he'd probably be the guy I'd start.
He'll be the starter in the playoffs
at
this point, you'd have to assume.
You would expect, unless he really slid and wasn't playing well. They do have an option now. They had options before when Marc-Andre Fleury was there, and Mike Sullivan is showing no hesitation to go with whoever he feels is going to get the job done on that night. And he can switch back and forth with the depth that they have at that position. They also have depth at the blue line now, and Brian Dumoulin should be back in the foreseeable future before this regular season is over. And that's a very good, solid defensive defenseman that can match up against some of the Capitals' top players if, in fact, they end up playing Washington when the playoffs roll around. So there's a lot of pieces there for Jimmy Rutherford, and he does not hesitate to pick up other pieces. And Jake Gensel's money will be available, though he won't be, and that's a big loss. They can use that money, and they can pick somebody up through trade.
Who should he be eyeing, or what position? I mean,
It'd be a winger.
It would be a winger, but I mean, there's not a ton available on the market. It's not a robust market at this point. I mean, who are you looking at? Who's a fit there?
If you're talking wingers, the 2 guys that pop into mind right now, New York Rangers, Chris Kreider. I mean, he's been around for a long time. The Rangers, let's not forget, this past decade, they had a lot of success in the playoffs. They didn't win a Stanley Cup, but they played deep into the playoffs time and time again. Kreider's one of those guys that can move up and down the lineup. He's got speed. He's a big body. He's kind of built for playoff hockey. He's always around the net. And the other guy I like that I think can do some damage down the stretch into the playoffs is Toffoli. Out and out. Dangerous right-handed shot. Can play the off wing if you want him to. He's got playoff experience as well. So those are 2 guys.
You give up a first-rounder for Kreider?
Yeah, you will. Now, it's interesting, right? Pittsburgh, New York, Rangers in the same division.
Yep.
So in years past, you would have said no chance. It's different now. With the salary cap and full bore, there's an urgency for teams to make trades, no matter if it's with somebody within their own division or not, if the price is right. And the price is going to be high for Kreider. It's going to be higher than what they got for Kevin Hayes last year. So you're going to have to spend, and that would be the big challenge from Jimmy Rutherford's perspective. But this, obviously, the Penguins are a win-now team. And when you've got Malkin playing like Malkin is playing this season, that's a huge plus that says if you're the general manager, I might do something else here just to try to put us over the top and match up well. The thing I like about Kreider's game is he can match up against the Capitals because not only is he fast, he's powerful. And he's not going to be chased out of a game against a team that plays physically. He also fits the way the Penguins play. They work, they play with pace. Toffoli doesn't have as much pace in his game. That'd be the only thing that would worry me with him.
We talked about the goaltending on one side. Let's talk about the Caps side of things because Ilya Samsonov, he's had a fantastic season, young goaltender. So Tuesday morning at practice, Alexander Ovechkin's ripping shots on net, catches Samsonov high. He has to sort of be helped off the ice. I think it was Ovi who said afterwards he's a big boy. I'm sure he's fine, which is easy for him to say.
Oh, yeah.
That's the key phrase. Easy for him to say.
Yeah, very easy for him to say.
If it was a fourth liner, a young kid coming up, he'd be terrified right now in the locker room.
I'm almost a little surprised, though, that we don't see this more often. You know, it's because the way I'm always surprised that when guys are warming up without the helmets on, that we don't see the puck go off the post. And, you know, we see it enough. We see guys get it in the head and go down. I mean, take me back to your experiences on the ice. I mean, did this happen? Was there sort of a rule where you had to try to avoid this?
Depended on who your goalie was. When I was in Washington, our goaltending wasn't great, so it didn't matter who we were shooting on. You were allowed to shoot high. When I got to Colorado, Patrick Waugh was there, had a few Stanley Cups under his belt. You never raised the puck above 18 inches. I mean, you walked in, you shot it, you tried to score, but you weren't shooting it high. If you hit Patrick Waugh up high, you were going to be killed. First by him and then by everybody else in the lineup. The backup was Craig Billington. Every time you went down the ice, you rang it right by his ear. And he would go wild. He was like hand for slap shot. He'd come chasing after you, and I'd be on, you're the backup, get back in there. But with Patrick Waugh, there's a different set of rules for certain goaltenders.
Big time. Yeah, I'm probably the wrong guy to ask because I was trying to shoot around the crossbar every single time in practice. Didn't care who it was. Generally speaking, on game days, I'd give the starter a little bit of a break. But as soon as you come down on the backup or whoever wasn't playing, everything's around the ears. And my excuse was, hey, I got to get warmed up too. I got to shoot the puck and get ready to play. Ray Emery.
You seen some of your goals? Yeah.
We saw a highlight of Ray Emery in Ottawa once upon a time where somebody hit him up high. It might have been Brian McGrattan, the old tough guy. And next thing you know, a stick is tomahawked into the corner, followed by Emery coming to fight him. We all know how tough Emery was. We had him for a year in 2012-13, the lockout season, and it was hilarious. I came down the ice a few times in practice. Thought twice about going high, just put it off his pads, thinking I was kind of a little baby for doing such thing. And then I turned around, one by one, every guy on the Hawks was just shooting it along the ice. Nobody wanted to shoot it high on Ray Emery.
There's legendary Ron Hextall stories as well, and almost fighting Shel Samuelson after a shot in the warm-ups in Philadelphia. I mean, they were going to go at it in the locker room. This was prior to a game. This wasn't like a morning skate. This was prior to a game. There's other players that shot on Hextall high, and he'd grab the puck and fired at their head. We all saw he scored 2 goals, shooting it all the way down the ice. Well, he could rip it. That puck would be coming back at you before you could turn around. That thing was going to hit you in the side of the head if you weren't careful. So Hexy took care of himself in his net, but there's a lot of different goaltenders that don't appreciate it.
Yeah, and let's face it, it depends on the status. As you mentioned, you have Alexander Ovechkin, you have Samsonov, which is why he says, yeah, he'll be fine. Don't worry.
And Samsonov's going to go in, hey, sorry, Alex.
Yeah,
I'm sorry that you hurt me with that.
Didn't mean to get in the way of the puck there. Yeah, my fault. Let's stay in the Metro and talk about easily the biggest surprise in the division. That's the Columbus Blue Jackets, because let's face it, Bobrovsky, Panarin, Duchesne, Dzingel. This is a team we talked about. God, we used the phrase all in a million times last year because that's what they did at the deadline. And then they get their first win in a playoff series. But then after that, it's over. These guys all leave, and I think we sort of forgot about them. Yeah. I mean, the idea was that there's no way they're going to make it. How is Columbus doing what they're doing this year?
A lot of it has to do with John Tortorella behind the bench. And you mentioned all those players. What do they all have in common? They're all superstar, skilled, talented players. To me, when I think of Tortorella and I think of Columbus, it's Foligno, it's Boone Jenner, right? It's that size, that speed, a workman-like attitude. Dubinsky's another one. That kind of fits the mold to John Tortorella's team. When I think of Panarin, Duchesne, Anthony Duclair was there a year ago. Look what he's doing in Ottawa now. For some reason, they didn't look good in that Columbus jersey the way that team played. Now, Columbus had a team that I thought could win the Stanley Cup last year. They missed a few chances against the Bruins as the playoffs went on, but I like the way this team is made up. They clearly trust in their coach. They believe in their coach, and it reflects in the way that they play. They smother teams with the body each and every game.
The remarkable thing is Josh Anderson, who I think is one of the top power forwards in the league, has 1 goal this year. He's been injured. He has not played well. He'll probably be moved. Another guy that, if you looked at their team last year, was a major reason why they, matched up so well against Tampa and beat them. Atkinson was hurt for an extended period of time. But you look at their goal totals, it's almost embarrassing. I mean, they're winning by committee, and they're all taking great pride in finding ways to win as a team. That's what makes them so likable. What makes them good is they've got a great blue line, and Seth Jones is a phenomenal player. One of the most lopsided trades that we've seen in a long time.
Yeah.
Ryan Johansson has not worked out in Nashville. Had a good season there and did well in a playoff run, but has not lived up to that. Seth Jones just keeps on getting better. So you have to give Jarmo Kekalainen a lot of credit. And he was very confident. Mike Milbury was telling me he talked to him in the offseason, and he mentioned to Mike, he said, look, we've drafted well. We have a lot of good young players coming. We're not that concerned about losing the players that we're going to lose. We felt like we had a chance to win it. We went for it, but we're not that far back. And I kind of shrugged it off when Mike was telling me that before the season, thinking, how could they possibly be in the mix, especially in such a difficult division? So give the draft a lot of credit and their scouting staff and their general manager. But I do agree with Sharpie. John Tortorella's put on a clinic this year behind the bench.
I think you'd have to say at this point he's the clear front runner for Coach of the Year. Did they have to make the playoffs, in your mind, for him to win Coach of the Year?
I would think so, yeah. Traditionally, those individual awards at the end of the year always go, generally speaking, to teams that make the playoffs.
Yeah.
MVPs, Coach of the Year, all that stuff
I
matters.
just wonder if they're like a point back, if they're in that chase, if he's still right there. I think it's still possible, but I understand there are a couple of other guys right there with
You
him.
could make a case, so I'd be fine with it.
Yeah.
And all the guys you mentioned signed multi-year, multi-million-dollar contracts. So you lost superstar talents, or at least players that are being paid like that. And Panarin is a superstar. We see what he's doing with the Rangers. Bobrovsky's starting to get his game. It's starting to round into form there as well. And Matt Duchene has played as a star in the league for a long time. So these are legitimate star players. And even Anthony Duclair, who you mentioned, Sharpie, was at the All-Star game this year, and looks like his game is really rounded into form. And he credits John Tortorella with kind of helping him develop into a better player, even though it didn't work out for the two of them there. So I think we do have to consider John Tortorella, even if Columbus misses the playoffs, as being the Coach of the Year.
Sullivan there as well?
Yeah, there's a few options, I think. Pittsburgh with Sullivan's got to be one for sure, just with the injuries that they have. I know there's a couple Hall of Famers in that lineup, but we went through it at the top of the podcast. They've been out for a ton of time. They keep plugging players in, and they've got a chance to win the division, so he'd come to mind.
Out west?
Berube's done a good job there again without Tarasenko. I mean, that's leading at the All-Star break. They were the top team there, and I don't think that many of us expected that to happen, especially with their superstar being out of the lineup. So I think he would be in that conversation. Travis Green is one that really stands out to me, what he's done in Vancouver. The Canucks are a very fun team to watch, but they're a young team, and he has managed a lot of young star talent, including Quinn Hughes on the back end, who's done an outstanding job. And that unique style of play is not easy to coach. So give Travis Green for letting him be a creative player.
Bednar in Colorado, similar makeup.
Yeah, he's good too.
Personnel-wise as Vancouver, if you really want to draw a comparison. High flyers on the back end, Hughes and Makar. Superstar talent up front, McKinnon and Pettersson. This Pettersson's awesome player. He's so smart with the puck. Reminds me of a Pavel Datsyuk, the way he's thinking it one step ahead of other guys. Simple play like entering the zone on a power play breakout. The pass is to you and we enter the zone. Well, he fakes that pass, but gets the defenseman to bite. Now he gets to walk into the zone. Little things like that add up. You want him with the puck on his stick at all times. He's one of the most fun players to watch in all the league.
Yeah, and I think with St. Louis struggling just a bit recently, it opens the door for Colorado. Colorado could win that division. Who knows? It could be a Coach of the Year award right there. It could be an MVP award on that team as well.